Hey, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Want to welcome you guys back to another episode of the Conversation 98. Truly excited and happy to be back before you today, man. Again, excited and look forward to the conversation today. I hope all is well. I hope everything is going well with everyone. But again, um, I'm excited to be back before you today. Had a lot of graduations today, so shout out to everybody that graduated from this week and the upcoming week, the high school and the college, junior college, whatever it is. Just want to say, excited for everybody, and look forward to you guys are being able to walk in your gifts and go and pursue those great things. So celebrate you on the accomplishment. Big shout out to my niece Aurelia Nisi. Very proud of you. She graduated from Alcorn State, the Alcorn State University down in Mississippi. So just wanted to just send a shout out to her and let her know that I'm very proud of her and happy for her. But again, man, I'm looking forward to tonight's conversation. I hope that you all are having a great week. And not only that, though, man, I hope everything is working well. Look, this year is almost over with. I mean, if you're saying that we're almost to the June, almost half of June, it looked like you sneezed yesterday was New Year's. But again, man, I'm so excited to get through this and come on, join in with me with the conversation. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And hey, this is an interactive conversation, so feel free to comment. I look forward to tonight. The night conversation is something that came to me this week, and I feel like it was necessary to discuss. It's a topic that I feel that is very necessary, and one I think that would be relevant to what we have going on, because it's seen a lot of different things and a lot of stuff going around, especially with social media and the advent of everything showing about this, that, and the third. But we're going to talk about understand it is important to stand on the principles of truth. It is impossible to stand on the principles of truth and reject accountability. And one of the reasons why I thought it is very necessary when we start thinking about that, we can't operate in truth, and whatever you define truth, there's a debate. Everybody can have whatever they perceive and accept as truth, but you can't operate to stand on the principles of that truth and then reject the accountability that comes with it. Because with truth, there will be accountability that comes with it. So however you want to do it, you can't throw your truth around and then turn around and reject any accountability that comes with it. It is impossible to do that, because if you don't have any accountability that comes with the truth that you yourself accept, then what was going to happen is you will find your quote unquote truth will be the foundation of it will be shaky because it has no accountability with it. None whatsoever. What's going on, Unc? How you doing? Chris Jones watching. Thanks for watching. What's going on, Uncle Charles, man? Love you. Love you. But yeah, I mean, just think about it, because it's so easy right now. And it's so easy right now for somebody to come up with what they claim to be truth. And the thing about truth is you don't have to, your truth can be whatever you want to make it to be. But if you want to have a truth that is relevant, it should be able to withstand it should be able to withstand or stand on its own. You can argue from a factual perspective, you can argue from an emotional perspective, but if you're talking about you're going to stand on the principles of a truth, right? With that principles of a truth, there has to be an accountability attached to it. And that accountability would be you being accountable to living up towards what you're claiming to be true. Or there's a consistency in which you operate in that truth. And so a lot of us, we like to claim and use the quote unquote our truth as a way of flashing up in front of people, but we don't want the accountability of it. And I would tell you that shows a lack of, to me, a lack of maturity from the individual standpoint if you refuse or reject accountability of it. For example, I'm going to use this example. And I'm going to use this as an example, and I hope this is helpful somebody. But there are people who love to claim saying that they're standing on the principle of the truth of their faith. And I use this as they say that hey, I'm standing on the principles of this truth and this faith. My faith is my principle that I'm standing on. But then turn around and reject the accountability that comes with them aligning themselves or being consistent with the truth that they say that they are operating on. That's why I said it's impossible for you to say you're standing on the truth of a certain faith, but then you turn around and you don't hold yourself accountable to the teachings and the principles of that faith. And the same thing, when you start talking about truth in other places, it is impossible for you to quote unquote stand on business, but then reject the accountability that comes with it. And there's a lot of people who do that today. We want other people to have sympathy towards us, but then we welcome the sympathy, but then we'll turn around and reject the accountability that comes with what we're claiming to be our truth. And that's wrong. I mean, think about it. Seriously, think about it. It's so much of, hey, I'm standing on this. I stand on business, right? And it leads to a lot of frustration with a lot of people. And if you sit down and think about it, that is a very true statement, because many people, and like I said before, truth can be relative to the person. And there's going to be, people are always going to have a difference. And there's a saying now, everybody say, oh, live your truth. Got it. Live your truth. Whatever you choose that to be, cool, that should be it. But whatever your truth that you choose to accept as your truth, the reality has to be, there has to be a level of accountability with it. And if you reject that accountability that comes with the quote unquote truth that you accept, then what fallacies do, I mean, what validity does that truth has? And what does that say about you and your ability and your commitment to that truth? Because regardless, if you agree with something and you choose to accept something as truth, there has to be a level of commitment so that you can walk in it with consistency. And many of us choose to reject that. We want the benefits of the truth, but we don't want the accountability that comes with it. And one of the things, you see it now, I mean, it is so relevant. It's so relevant. And it's funny because you can see how easily it can be. One of the funny things that we see today when we start talking about, we say it is impossible to stand on the principles of truth, is in American politics. We see how fickle principles be when we start talking about party differences. And one people will say, hey, this is our truth, but then they don't want to be accountable to it, and they want the freedom to flip-flop or deny or denounce anything that's associated with a particular party when it's beneficial to them. Or their bias is so bad to where they can't even operate with the accountability of the same principles that they say they stand for. And a lot of people, they do that and they operate in that, but then when you sit down and you look at it, what raise questions to the validity of what they choose and what they're saying that they're standing on. And people outside looking in from a logical perspective, they'll look at that as, man, they full of crap. They full of crap because they reject the accountability that comes with it. They reject the accountability. Now, some people may say it, but from a philosophical perspective, truth can be relative, and it can be relative to what anybody choose that they want it to be. And I'm not here to have a philosophical debate about what somebody's truth is to them. What I am talking about is it is impossible to stand on the principles of that said truth, whatever it is relative to the person, but then reject the accountability that comes with the truth. There's an accountability that comes with truth. There's an accountability that comes with it. And that accountability can come in many different forms, but to reject that says a lot about, is that truth? Are you really fully walking in that truth? Or are you just using that quote unquote truth as a way of just as a banner, but don't want the backside to it? And like I said before, so many people, they want the benefits of stuff, but they want the benefits of claiming the truth, but they don't want the accountability that comes with it. And, that's just what it is. And I look at it and I think about it, and I've seen it so much. And that's why, one example of it is in the Bible, there's a clear story in the book of Matthew where person got up and they was talking about, how all of the things that they did. Matthew 7 chapter, they talk about, hey, we prophesied in your name. We heal people in your name. We did all of these things in your name. But then when they got up to Jesus and the Holy Spirit was like, but hey, I don't know you. that wasn't in a relationship. And that's the same thing as people saying that they're standing on the principles of it, but their lifestyle didn't align with the accountability of the truth that they claiming to be. And many people, our lifestyles and many things and how we operate in areas in our lives don't align with the truth or the accountability of the truth. We want the reception of being perceived as a good person or as a believer, or as a Christian, but we reject the accountability that comes with it. And that's what I'm talking about. That right there is what I'm talking about, because you can choose to reject it, but it is what it is. Like, we have so many people now, and it's sad. It's sad. But there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people, especially in the age of social media, who like to throw rocks and hide their hand. They will run to social media as a way of portraying as if they're standing on something, and then they will be held accountable for their actions, but then turn around and try to play the role of a victim, but refuse to be accountable to their actions. And in a lot of ways, that's the same thing. And they will claim that they're standing on the principle of something, but really what they're trying to do is they was out of pocket. They're using their principle as a way to stand behind. So when people try to hold them accountable for their actions, they can say that, hey, that's not that. I'm talking about this. That wasn't it. And they want to throw rocks and hide their hands and not stand to be accountable. You can't stand on business and then reject accountability. It doesn't work that way. And so many of us try to do that, but that shows that we are immature. We are immature. And one thing that is hard, and I know it's hard for a lot of people, but one of the things that I've learned, and I can share this from my deployment, my first deployment. I remember a story on my first deployment. My son was supposed to be born, and I communicated to my leadership that, hey, my son was going to be born on this day. They put me on guard duty the night that my son's supposed to be born. Now, I communicated with them and everything, but they put me on guard duty. Fast forward, okay, part of my guard duty was I had to go check what we call a motor pool where our vehicles was. So on my way there, we had a morale, welfare, and recreational tent where they had internet. This was back in 2004. I went in and checked the internet. I didn't supposed to do that, but I went in and checked the internet because I was pissed off that they put me on guard duty. Finished the guard shift. They came back. They was going to give me UCMJ, going to get me in trouble because I didn't do it. I was mad because of what was behind it, right? But at the same point, God said, you went in there when you didn't supposed to. So when I took ownership and I took accountability for my behavior in that moment. Now, fast forward, that doesn't mean that I wasn't upset. That doesn't mean that they could have worked with me. That doesn't mean that everything else wasn't frustrating, because it was. But what I learned in that story, what I learned in that lesson and in that moment was God wasn't concerned so much with what somebody else did. If I said that I'm a believer, if I said that I believe God and I trust God, I had to stand on the principles of what his truth was and accept the accountability that came with it. And that accountability that came with it was holding me accountable for my behavior. I didn't sit there and try to justify what everybody else's actions were, because it really didn't matter. I was willing to say that I was standing on the truth. I was a believer and I was serving God. So I stood on the principles of what my truth was and took the accountability that came with it. I did not reject it. That did not make it fun. That did not make it easier to swallow. That did not make me frustrated at the people. But I'm going to tell you, when you stand on the principles, when you accept accountability and you stand on the principles of truth, I'm going to tell you what happened, because it happened in this story. After I accepted the accountability of my actions in that story, after I accepted my accountability of my actions in a situation to where I was somebody did me dirty in the aspect of I communicated to them about my son was going to be born or whatever, but they still put me on guard duty. And I did something I did not supposed to do, even though I felt justified, because they shouldn't have did it. But in that, what happened is, after that, what God did, God not only removed that all of those people out I went home, saw my son born, came back. I had all new chain of command. God moved that thing, and God put people in place that was going to be there, and they took care of me. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to vindicate myself. I stood on the principles and the accountability of that truth. And today, so many people, they just want to have the bravado of standing on a principle, but they reject the accountability that comes with it. You're not a victim. Matt said, Jesus opened up the deeper accountability and responsibility because we know what's at stake in the end. Yes. And what he did with that was, honestly, in that moment, what I learned about that is, there's a lot of people that claim that they stand on business. They claim they stand on business, but many of them only claim to stand on business when it's convenient for them. They don't claim to stand on business when there's accountability associated with it, when they have to really sacrifice. They do it out of convenience because most of them that quote unquote say they stand on business, they just want the approval of the crowd, but then they don't want the accountability that comes with what they say that they standing on business for. And a lot of people before our parents and the older generations, they practice this every day. They practice this every day with standing on principles and doing things and taking a hard right over the easy wrong. And they stood on principles and they accepted the accountability that came with it. They didn't just do it just because they wanted to be glorified or seem like they're being martyred and want sympathy. They stood on it because that's what they were. They were stand up people. And right now, man, we see so many people that want to get certain things, and we got all of these movements, and social media is a great thing, and I'm all for it. But I just have a problem with people trying to use it in the aspect of and don't be accountable for their behavior with it and want to spin a narrative as if they're the victim. No, stand on business. Stand on business. If you did something and if you did things and right, then you stand on business. Don't do things and wrong and then want to play victim when somebody hold you accountable. I would tell you don't do that. There's a lot of people that do that. They want to do something wrong and they doing it out of a malice place. They doing it from a vindictive place. They doing it from a place to where they are being angry or they just being nasty, but then want to turn around and play victim when they're held accountable for their actions and want to spin it as if it's something else, but never will address that what their behavior was or their action was or what their decision was is what led them to being accountable to where they're at right now. And when you do that, especially as an adult, don't play victim when you was the one that was in the wrong. Own it. Own it. Because as soon as you own it, the better you can further along if there are real issues. If it's not, you'll begin to be seen as the boy that cried wolf, and people will be laughing at you. They begin to laugh at you. They won't pay you no attention. None whatsoever. But man, I hope that you guys enjoyed this tonight, this conversation tonight. Just understand that, hey, it is impossible to stand on business and reject accountability. Stand on the principles of truth and reject accountability. You can't be a principle. Principles, and it's funny. This is one of the funniest things because truth and principles are two things that have structure. And where there is structure, there's order. And where there's order, there's accountability. So that's why I said it is impossible for you to stand on the principles of truth and reject accountability. You can't say you're standing on truth or standing on the principle and then turn around and reject accountability. That's dysfunction. That is dysfunction. And then the thing is if your principle is based off of just what you want, then you're just you're just pushing your own agenda. And understand when you push your own agenda, you should be willing to stand up for it and say what it is. Don't try to loop other people into it to try to get more followings for it. If you standing on principle, you should be able to withstand and stand on that same business and accept the accountability that comes with it. Don't try to change the narrative so it can be more beneficial to you. because so many people do it. So many people do it. Man, I hope that you guys are enjoying this. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week. And I hope your weekends have been blessed. You guys have a safe and wonderful and blessed week. God bless. Talk to you guys later.